Hi there Commanders, and welcome back to Spacefaring Chronicles. So this video is for basically brand new players who are maybe just installed the game, maybe have completed the first couple of tutorials and they're now sitting in their Sidewinder, maybe in Chamberlain's Rest, and kind of wondering, well, what on earth do I do now? How do I kind of get into and start this game? The idea really that it's going to fit between episodes 1 and 2 of my beginner series, if you've seen that on YouTube. I guess what's going to be in this then, so we're going to do what I would suggest is a very small ship improvement to start with, then to how do you go and find a suitable mission. In the beginner series I mentioned in episode 2, when you started the game you would basically get a kind of beginner introductory mission, and all that it was it would basically tell you to fly to another system, land at a certain station, and then you'd basically get paid credits for doing that. You only got sort of 10,000 credits if I remember rightly. You don't get that anymore since they did the system colonization update. That beginner mission seems to have been nerfed. Instead then, I'm going to tell you how to find a suitable replacement mission instead. It'll actually probably pay you more anyway. We'll run through some of the basic cockpit displays, and then we'll run through some of the more useful basic controls, and I'll guide you through some of the mechanics of how you launch, fly, and then land the ship. So, if this video is for you, then enjoy. Okay Commander, so you're going to find yourself sitting in a beginner station, most likely Chamberlain's Rest. Now I can't get back there because I am locked out from the beginner systems right now. Once you make progression within the game and you leave the beginner area, you can't return. What I've done is I've found a sort of starport that as closely mimics Chamberlain's Rest as possible. I've bought myself a stock Sidewinder, and I'll basically take you through what I would do if I was sort of beginning the game. The first thing that we want to do then is here we want to go to local services. Local services basically gives you access to all the sort of services available within a starport. So from here you can select missions, you can buy and sell commodities, you've got access to a variety of different contacts that enables you to do different things within the game, and we'll touch on those a bit later. You've also got access then to what we want to take a look at, which is outfitting. So we go into outfitting, and it's here that you can modify your ship, and we're just going to make one small change. We're going to go down to core internal components. So core internal components are those that are compulsory to your ship. You need to have these in order for it to operate, and if we go into here you can see a selection of different modules. The module that we're interested in is the frameshift drive. So the frameshift drive is the component that allows you to do two things. It allows you to make hyperspace jumps, that is to travel between different star systems, and it also allows you to go into what we call supercruise, which is a way of travelling around within a system more quickly. Okay, so we're going to modify the frameshift drive. The stock Sidewinder module is a Class 2E module. For the Sidewinder then, the module slot for a frameshift drive is Class 2. You can't go bigger than a Class 2, but what you can change then is the rating of that Class 2 drive. So at the moment we've got a Class E rating module, and that's the least capable of a class of module. What we want to do is we want to go to a 2A module. So a 2A is the most capable, and you can see here I've got the module that you're going to want to purchase. I've already got that sort of in stock at this station. So what we're going to do, if you look at the bottom of the screen, it gives you your jump range, min, current and max, and you can see here that this 2E frameshift drive has got a maximum jump range of 8.15 light years. Now if you compare that with the one that I've got here as an example, which is a Class 2A frameshift drive, and I'll talk about the SEO enabled in a little minute, then you can see that immediately the jump range, if we were to select that, goes to 19.98 light years. So you can basically travel further with one jump. And the reason I'm suggesting that you upgrade this particular module is that it's going to give you more options to take on various things within the game, because you're going to be able to jump further in a single jump. So I'm suggesting or recommending that you upgrade your drive from a Class 2E to a Class 2A. And we want to take a look at it being SEO enabled. That is Supercruise Overcharge. In a nutshell, and I'll explain this later, when you're going into Supercruise, you can effectively supercharge it and travel at even faster speeds. It basically enables you to travel between different elements within the system that can be quite a distance away far more quickly. So it's definitely worth getting an SEO enabled frameshift drive. So if you select that, now just a word of warning for you guys, When you buy this module from scratch, I believe that a Class 2A with SEO enabled is 192,000 credits. Obviously, you start off with 250,000 credits. It's obviously a fair chunk of your starting capital. I would strongly still recommend you do this because it does give you more options within the game more quickly. So I think it's worth the investment. You will make that money back reasonably quickly. Okay, so if you go ahead and buy it, I'm equipping it on my ship here. So that's it now. So I can now jump a maximum of 19.98 light years, and that's quite an upgrade. Let's go back to the main menu. So the next thing you want to do then is you want to select a mission. So by selecting missions, you get paid credits for doing them. That's how you earn money. And one of the first things I talk about in my beginner series is that really making money is probably the first objective within Elite Dangerous, because by getting money, it enables you to upgrade your ships, which then enables you to take on different types of missions and having just more capabilities. So I think at the beginning stages, getting money is the name of the game. So you do that by doing missions. So we go to the mission board, and let's take a look at what missions are available. So as a beginner, I would strongly recommend doing a transportation mission. They're the easiest to do. For the effort, they pay reasonably well. So let's take a look. So we can see here we've got a range of transportation missions. Now, because I'm not in a beginner's sector, these courier jobs, which is what I would suggest, you want to be looking at either data delivery missions or courier missions, something where you're basically delivering something to a different system. There's a word warning here. I'm going to select one of these two missions here, so I'm going to select the first one for 50,000 credits. Now you can see here the rating for this mission is red, and it's got a little skull with a triangle. That's telling me that it's a risky mission. Let's have a look at it. Threat level 8. The chances are I'm likely to be, for example, interdicted when doing this. When you're doing these sorts of missions from your starting out system, they're going to be threat levels either 0s or 1s, and they're very easy to undertake. So that would be the only difference here. For me though, this should be fine. It enables me still to talk through what you want to do. A couple of things when you're looking at selecting a mission then that is quite important to take a look at. The first one is the system and how far away is it. Obviously this one is 17.88 light years, and as we just discussed, we can do that in a single jump because we upgraded our drive. And then the other thing we want to take a look at is the starport. So that's the destination within the system that you're flying to. Now you want to make sure that ideally, so the distance that it gives you to the right of it, where it says here estimated at 961 light seconds, that's a distance from where you jump in and arrive within the system to how far it is you have to travel in Super Cruise. Now 961 light seconds is not very much, and you will do that within a minute or so. You could get ones which are like 70,000 light seconds away, and that, using a normal Super Cruise drive, would take you a lot longer. So that's where the SEO capability kind of comes in. For this one though, 961 light seconds is absolutely fine, so we're going to accept that mission. So now that we've selected the mission, what we want to do next is we want to be able to select that as a destination on our galaxy map, and then we can actually take a look at taking off and flying to it. So you want to select the galaxy map, and if you're using a games controller like I am today, if you hold down the Y button or the yellow button, and then you can then select with the D-pad the galaxy map. This is what you basically use to navigate around the galaxy. So when you're in the galaxy map, it's here that I've got a top tip for you. On the left hand side, scroll down through the menus until you find route settings. And under route settings, you want to change your jump data where you'll find it's probably set to economical routes, and you just want to change that to fastest routes. And what this change does, it means that when your ship is calculating routes to different systems, it'll use the fastest route available, and it'll minimize the number of jumps that you need to make. The other thing that you can do if you're looking at basically setting a destination for a mission, go back to the main screen, and again if you hold down the blue button and hit your D-pad, it's the external mode panel is what they call it, and essentially if you go to transactions across the top, then I'm just using my bumper keys on my keypad doing that, we can go down and we can select the courier job that we just selected, and again it gives you the details of the job. But the thing you can do here, which just makes maybe navigating to it slightly easier, is you can select the galaxy map option here, that's now centered on the system where the mission is located, and if you hold the A button down, it's plotted the route. It's a single jump, which is good, so nice and straightforward. So we can now look to undertake doing that mission. Okay, commanders, so we're almost ready to take off. So if we select the return to surface button from the menu, and our ship will be taken to the surface ready for takeoff on a landing pad. So the first thing we want to do then is, well, as you can see on your screen here, is you've got your basic cockpit controls. These are what you pretty much need all the time, front and center. So things like your fuel, your power management, your shields, your hull integrity, they're front and center. However, they're not the only bits of information you have available to you. Your ship also has a number of different mode panels which you can navigate to, which will help you sort of just give you more information, and you basically need these in order to do the various sort of game mechanics basically. So on the games controller then, if you hold down your blue button, that's your X button, and you use your D-pad to go left, right, up and down, this is how you can very easily access your different mode panels. So holding the X down and going to the left, this is your external mode panel, and it's all stuff basically related to the external of your ship. So things like contacts, so you can contact the different things that are available locally, like your station, like different ships, etc. Transactions are all to do missions or stuff that you're undertaking at the moment, or whether you've got combat or bounty vouchers to claim. Navigation is obviously all to do with navigation. It's where you're navigating to, so you have a list of everything that's available within the system, as well as the star systems that are available within your jump range. And then you've also got just, again, some basic information on the system that you're currently in. That's your external mode panel. The next mode panel to take a look at then is your internal mode panel. So you hold the blue button down and you go across to your right with your directional D-pad, and it's here that you have everything to do with your ship or your commander. So you can see here you've got the commander rankings in the different elements, how much money you've got access then to your ship's modules, your ship's fire groups, your ship information about your ship itself, what you've got in your inventory, what you've got in your storage, and then your overall sort of status with either different factions or within the game. So that is your internal mode panel. If you hold the blue button down and you hit the right button, you go back to the center. Again, holding the blue button down going up will take you to your comms panel. So this is the comms panel, and this is how you can basically see communications between ships within your system, or you can communicate with other players of the game. And again, if you hold the blue button down, go up, you return back to the main menu. Okay, so the last one to show you then, the last mode panel is your roll panel. So you hold the blue button down and go down with your D-pad. You got here your kind of default flight suit loadout. So that is sort of when you disembark from your ship on foot. So you can have different loadouts configured for that. From here you would deploy, if you had a ship launched fighter, you could launch that from here, and if you have an SRV available, you would disembark in your SRV from here as well. So this is your roll panel. So if you hold the blue button down and press down with your D-pad, it returns you back to your main screen again. Okay, so those are your mode panels. The next thing I want to take you through is your configuring of your fire groups. So you hold the blue button down, go to your right, go to fire groups, and you may have something similar configured here. This is worth checking. I can't remember what you have as a default, but certainly here what I've got is I've got one fire group, my fire group A, and I've only got some weapons triggered from my primary trigger. So both pulse lasers will be fired when I fire my primary trigger here. What you want to do is you want to make sure that your discovery scanner, which is your D scanner here, and probably your data link scanner also, is configured to a fire group so that they can be activated from your triggers. So what you want to do here, I would have my discovery scanner as primary, so number one, and I would have my data link scanner as my secondary. So I hit the A button twice and that tells it to configure that as my secondary trigger. So you'll notice here I've got one fire group, and I can trigger multiple things with my primary fire button. So I can trigger my pulse lasers and I can trigger my discovery scanner. The reason for being able to do that is you can put your ship into one of two modes. Your ship is either in combat mode, in which case, if that's the case, and you have your primary fire group selected here and you've fired your lasers with your primary trigger, your lasers are going to fire. Okay. If you put your ship into analysis mode, and you used your primary trigger, you would use your discovery scanner, or if you use your secondary trigger, you would use the data link scanner. Okay, so you can have in one fire group effectively multiple triggers configured depending on what mode your ship is in. So we only need to have this one primary fire group. We can switch ship's cockpit mode between combat or analysis. So that is your fire groups. Just make sure, it's really important that you have your discovery scanner connected to a trigger of some form, okay, because we're going to use that. Okay, the last thing that I want to check with you, and that is whether or not you're actually going to use auto dock. So you can see here we've got the advanced docking computer. You're going to have to decide pretty early on if you're going to want to learn to take off or land with a docking computer, or if you want to learn to do it manually. Taking off and landing is actually relatively straightforward. It's obviously needs a bit of practice, but I think it's a skill that is very worthwhile having within the game. Okay, so what I would do, if you're willing, and you don't have to, but I would disable the advanced docking computer and I would do everything manually. You don't have to at this stage, but I think it's, if you're beginning to learn to play the game, you might as well learn to take off and land because they're useful skills to have. So I have just turned off the advanced docking computer, and you do that in the module screen here, and you go down, you find your advanced docking computer, and I would just, as I say, make it inactive. Okay. The one things that I would recommend you do is just get familiar with some of the basic controls that you need for flying the ship. The beginner tutorial where they've run through all the flight stuff is actually pretty good. If you've done that but you're still not quite sure, it's worth repeating it just in case. So then, in terms of ship controls, before we take off, and we can do that from here by selecting launch, you have a throttle where you can basically accelerate forwards or accelerate backwards. Okay, so make sure you know where your throttle is. You've got your thrusters. So thrusters are how you vector up, down, left or right. Being aware of those on your controller is definitely worthwhile having. And then you want your traditional pitch, yaw and roll controls. So the other control that you want to have available to you then is the landing gear. So if you hold down the red button on your controller, that's the B button, hit down with the directional D-pad, that would raise or lower the landing gear. The other control that you kind of want to know about is your super cruise and your hyperspace jump controls. So if you hold down the yellow button, that's the Y button on your games controller, if you hold that down and you hit down, you will basically activate Super Cruise. And then when you want to make a hyperspace jump, you just would tap the yellow button, that's the Y button. So, select launch from the menu, we'll release from the landing pad. We're going to thrust upwards, so just hitting upwards with the thrusters, away from the landing pad. Up we go. We're going to then raise our landing gear. We hold the B button down on our games controller. We select landing gear by pressing down on the D-pad. That is our landing gear retracted. We throttle forwards and then we just pull back on our stick at the same time and we head away. So at this point we want to go into Super Cruise. So we hold down the yellow button, that's the Y button on the keypad. And we press down with the D-pad and we go into Super Cruise. So this is going to make the ship fly faster. So essentially what you've got when you're flying in Elite Dangerous, you've got normal flight, which is what we're using when we're taking off from the planet's surface. You've got Super Cruise, which is obviously faster, and that is used to fly quickly between different targets within the same system. So that's what we're in now, we're in Super Cruise. And then you've got making a hyperspace jump. So effectively there's 3 modes of travel with a spaceship within Elite Dangerous. So here's a blistering quick guide to your cockpit display, and please refer to the game manual for a more detailed explanation. I've linked the manual in the description below, specifically check pages 12 to 14. So from top left and going around in a clockwise direction, you've got the comms panel, which I've already covered. You've got the info panel, which gives you real-time relevant information about your ship. Then you've got your ship's signature bar, which is how visible you are to other ships. Then you've got your fuel gauges, which is how much fuel do you have. Then you've got your characteristic indicators, is mass lock, landing gear, cargo scoop. Then you have your power distributor, which shows your power distributed between your systems, your engines and your weapons. Then you have your ship schematic, which is how much shields you have. Then you have your hull integrity, which is basically how much of your hull do you have left, and 0% means your ship is destroyed. Then you have your speed indicator, which is how fast you are going. Then you have your scanner, which is basically showing you what's in the vicinity of your ship. Then you have your sensor scale, which is what distance your scanner is working to. Then you have your internal heat level, which is how hot your ship is internally. Then you have your nav compass, which locates your target relative to your ship. Then you have your target schematic, which is showing you what you have targeted currently. You have also the shield level of your enemy. Then it shows you your enemy's hull integrity, which is how much of the hull your enemy has. And then lastly, target information panel, which is information about your target. Now, we need to align with the jump target, but in this instance we can't do it because the planet is in the way of the destination system. Now, this doesn't always happen, but honestly this is a good learning opportunity. So we have to clear the planet before jumping to hyperspace. So this used to take a few minutes because we had to fly into orbit and then clear the planet. Supercruise is always affected by nearby stellar objects such as suns, planets and moons, as they exert gravity. So these objects will slow you down in Supercruise. However, if you remember, we installed an SCO enabled frameshift drive, so we can use SCO to boost away from the planet more quickly. To do this, you have to be in Supercruise, obviously. So all you do is you tap the red button on the controller to engage Supercruise, and then you tap it again when you've travelled far enough to stop the overcharge. So 3 things to note about using SCO. 1, it burns through a lot of fuel very quickly, so use it sparingly. 2, it generates a lot of heat, so watch your heat level. And 3, on older generation ships like the Sidewinder, they're not optimised for SCO travel, so you have to adjust the flight of the ship a lot to keep it largely on course. Now, we've cleared the planet and we can jump into our target system. You can use your nav compass to align to the target system. You hit the yellow button, that's the Y button, to make the hyperspace jump. You'll drop out of hyperspace automatically, and it'll always be near the primary star. Now, it's a good habit at this stage to use your discovery scanner when you first arrive within a system, so that you can acquire the system data. You can then sell this at Universal Cartographics at spaceports and settlements to earn more credits. So to do this, you have to put your cockpit into analysis mode. And on the default gamepad controller, the binding for this is to hold down the yellow button and press up with the D-pad, and your cockpit will tell you what mode you're in. You'll then see your discovery scanner available in the HUD. Simply use the primary trigger, and the default on the controller is the right trigger for this. You need to hold it down until the discovery scanner has completed the scan. Note that you have to be 20 light years away from the scan system in order to sell the data. So now you need to find your mission target. So you need to go to the external mode panel, again, holding the blue button down and going left on the D-pad, and then you go to the navigation tab. There's 2 things to note here. Your mission target will be listed in here with a blue globe icon, and you can select that as the target. However, there's a good learning opportunity here. You'll see in the list there's lots of targets listed as either unidentified or unexplored, and you can fix this by scanning the system's navigation beacon. So near the top of the list is the navigations beacon. You select that as the target, and note that you should use Supercruise Assist when targeting, and then use the nav compass to align with the target, the navigation beacon, and fly to it. Note that Supercruise Assist will automatically drop you out of Supercruise when you're close enough to the target. Target the navigation beacon by tapping the blue button, that's the X button, on the controller, and then fly within 200 meters to automatically download the system data. Then when you check the navigation data again in your external mode panel, you'll find that it's fully populated. From here, find your mission target. In our case, it's a small space station, also known as a terminal. I advise again targeting it with Supercruise Assist, as it will fly you at the right speed and drop you out of Supercruise automatically when you reach your destination. Again, remember that your nav compass will always point towards your intended target, so use that to align with the target. Go into Supercruise, hold yellow button, and press down with the D-pad. Supercruise Assist will fly you to the target at the right speed. Without Supercruise Assist, you would need to manually adjust your speed as you approach the target. The indicators for this would be on the target information panel. Both speed and distance need to be in the blue to be able to drop out of Supercruise. You stand the risk of performing what is known as a loop of shame if you misjudge this, as you will fly past the target and have to loop back. So once you've dropped out of Supercruise at your target, you now have to land the ship. And the first thing you have to do is to request docking or landing clearance. So for this you have to be within 7.5 kilometers of the station. To request permission, go to the external mode panel, navigate to the contacts tab and select the station, and then select request docking. If they have the landing pad free, you'll be granted permission to dock. Here they do not have a pad free, so we have to wait, and it's because there's a ship taking off from it. However, once it's clear, we can put in another request, and this time it's granted. So now we have to land manually, and so we have to align with the landing pad correctly. In this example, I come in from the wrong direction, so I have to fly out and turn around and come in from the opposite direction. So take your time with this, there's no rush. Use the combination of pitch, yaw and roll and your thrusters to align with the pad. And then once you're close, you lower your landing gear, and again you hold your red button and press down with your D-pad. And as you get closer, the scanner on your cockpit will be replaced with a landing diagram. You need to align the red dot below your ship hologram with the centre of the landing pad. It will turn blue and you can lower your ship with your thrusters and your ship will then land. Always remember to refuel, repair and then, if necessary, rearm straight away. So now we have to complete the mission. So you go to the Starport Services option on the menu, you select Mission Board and note the blue tick to indicate an option to complete a mission. Go to the completed missions. You usually have the choice of 3 reward types: cash, material or influence. At this stage of the game, go for cash to build up some cash reserve. You'll still get some faction reputation and some recognition from one or more of the superpowers within the game. And then that's it, the mission is complete. Well done. So in terms of what's next then, I'd advise looking for similar mission types to help you get started and to get familiar with the controls and the gameplay mechanics. And also it'll help you to build some cash reserve as well. If you haven't already, check out my beginner's guide on YouTube as the best way to get into the game. It covers all the different mission types and the sort of career choices as well. Hopefully you found this guide useful. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Like I said earlier, it's slightly different from the main episodes in the beginner series. I've tried to do this as a more in-depth guide. So that's it for now. Until next time, fly dangerous, commanders, and I will see you out there in the black.